What's happening, everyone? Welcome to episode number 15 of the Coinist daily stream. It's 1:30, 4:30 Eastern time. I don't know the exact time in Europe, but I know it's really late. I'm going to let a couple of you guys filter in. It's the 17th today. It's Friday. It's a really good day, not only because it's Friday, but because we have a lot of pretty interesting stuff going on right now. It's going to be a pretty action-packed episode just because of the recent Bitcoin and Bcash price movement. So I'm excited to go over that with you guys live. It seems like each time we have these episodes, the actual price action, what's going on asleep? It seems like the actual price action is moving a little bit slower when I do these streams. What I was saying, for those of you who are coming in live right now, we have an action-packed episode, and I'm going to let a couple of you guys filter in before I get into it. Of course you want, of course. What's going on, asleep? What's going on, you want crypto? I'm going to shout a couple of you guys out as you filter in, and then we will get it going. Of course, man, I'm happy to move up the live stream to an earlier time for you guys over there in Europe. I'm also going to I'm going to do another poll later in the group, maybe next week, and see if there is a part of the world or an area geographically that I'm maybe neglecting in my coverage. I'm extremely flexible. I'm based in the West Coast, but I'm going to be traveling kind of all over the country for the rest of the month. Not all over the country, over to the East Coast, and you know, my sleep patterns are pretty strange. Anyways, I'm awake almost 18 hours a day sometimes, so I can do more coverage early or later, depending on if certain parts of the group don't think they're getting enough coverage. Crypto Prinny, what's going on? Staying late in the office so I can catch it live. There you go, man. That's dedication. I love it. I love the dedication to crypto in this group. I'm going to make it worth your stay. It looks like we have a couple guys filtered in, about 9 or 10. We usually get about up to 20 or 30, so I'm sure some guys will filter in later. This episode is going to be pretty action-packed just because of what Bitcoin and Bcash are doing. I have this 0.15 fib kind of marked or drawn in the sand. What's going on, Dury? As really important. Yesterday we had a break from this downtrend in Bcash, and you guys saw what happened overnight. Right before I went to bed, I was kind of concerned that I was going to wake up to Bitcoin down here. Not concerned, but I'm saying concerned because I wanted to be able to take profits up here and move into alts while we're up here, and I didn't want to miss that opportunity. So it looks like Bitcoin rose again as Bcash retraced. What I just tweeted out and what I just sent to you guys in the group is that this is the line to watch as we just absolutely blast through it right now. And I'm going to be covering this live for you guys. But this, make no mistake of it, I personally think, and maybe not a lot of other people in the industry or on Twitter or wherever share this view, I think Bcash is driving Bitcoin's price. When Bcash moves, Bitcoin moves, and I don't really know what else would be causing this ebb and flow or this decrease and rise of Bitcoin other than something like Bcash. I mean, sure, there may be profit taking, or there's definitely, I understand the factors at play with Bitcoin as well. I just think Bcash is the one driving Bitcoin now. It's not Bitcoin, you know, because I've always, and I still believe this, Bitcoin drives what happens in all the other alt markets. You guys are well aware, that's how I build my entire portfolio strategy. But this is the one coin that has seemed to kind of flip the script. So we're going to be covering that live. We're also going to be touching a little bit more on strategy, and it looks like Bitcoin's holding up for now. We're going to be touching a little bit more on strategy and kind of leading into what we're going to talk about tomorrow. And then we'll also do a little bit of alt watch today. So we're going to look at NEO and NAV. I already gave the NEO setup. I gave the NAV setup as well. NEO was an alt trade update. NAV was an alt trade idea. So check out those channels if you missed them. But yeah, guys, this is going to be a really cool episode because we finally have some movement live. So about 10 minutes ago, Bcash made this move. It made this preliminary move last night, busting out of the channel, like I said, and we got a slight retrace. Now it's making the push again, and it's really weird. The move was weird last night. I'm not sure if this is a trading view thing. I'm not sure if it's because all the volume comes for Korea or what it is. The order book of Bcash is just so strange to me. It doesn't look like the order books on other coins. I don't know. It always looks strange to me. The volume still isn't too big. Last night's push was nice. It's certainly growing right now, which is nice if you're a Bcash holder, or even nice if you understand what this move is going to do and how you can play it. So as Bcash moves above this, it's pushing Bitcoin down to keep the focus on Bitcoin. We broke this long-term channel. If you guys don't know where this red thick line is coming from, this is the long-term channel, log channel, for those of you who are trying to draw it. Make sure your chart is on log. And we broke this, and we entered again once back into the channel. I drew this shorter term support right here, this green dotted line, which is just support for the recent move up. And that looks like it's holding on for Bitcoin right now. I think if Bcash is able to pass this recent peak, this 0.16 or 0.165, I imagine Bitcoin will break this shorter term support and probably move down to the white dotted line, which I think is a little bit stronger. But neither of these are too strong, in my opinion. This is the strongest support that we have. This is the 67 whatever level, or 7K. So this range right here is a whole lot stronger if Bitcoin is to break these two levels. I mean, these two levels are holding up nice right now. I just don't have too much faith if this Bcash move. I'm not sure if it's Roger. I'm not sure who it is. But this is the type of order book activity I'm talking about. These little walls have been popping up. I know people were saying there was a 1,000 Bitcoin buy wall yesterday or last night, and that, it's so funny on Twitter how I post something, I post an honest tweet, Bcash pump and Bitcoin dip comes out of nowhere, and immediately there's 30 people that predicted it and knew exactly when it was going to happen. But that's a whole different conversation. But apparently they knew that there was a 1,000 Bitcoin buy order down here, rocketed price up, and we're getting a lot of these little buy walls. Whether it's Roger, or a couple of these really big guys dumping their Bitcoin and moving into Bcash, I'm not sure. I imagine there's another one. I imagine they have a lot of Bitcoin if they really believe in this project, or if Bcash, really does continue to take market share. I don't want to write it off. I still haven't written it off. I think people are paying less attention to the FUD. I think it's definitely still there. Craig Wright, I don't really care about the tribalism or the groups that are backing these coins. I want the whole ecosystem to be healthy. I want crypto to continue to flourish. That's all I can really say there. I think people aren't giving Bcash enough of a shot. I don't really care about anything. I just want to track this movement, know what it's doing to Bitcoin, and know what that means for the rest of the alt ecosystem. So just want to touch on that. This is the movement I'm watching. This is the very important line, as you can see what it just caused Bitcoin to do. And if we break this 0.165 level, or this recent peak, I think the move up to 0.2 is going to be rapid, and I think that would cause a pretty significant dip in Bitcoin once again, which really takes me into my next kind of topic. And I know tomorrow we're going to be covering strategy. It's not going to be a strategy session like we do in the intro of all these, just to give you guys a prep. It's going to be on Saturday. I like to do the training session videos, so I like to make it more educational. They're like the Wednesday, but more focused on practical trading. So tomorrow's is going to be looking at different ways, whether it's passive, whether it's active, what your allocations are, what it means if you want to put small parts of your portfolio into Litecoin and Neo and let that sit, what that will do to your crypto portfolio over time. What are the benefits of that strategy as opposed to a strategy like mine, where I'm very heavy into Bitcoin and I really only move into alts, trying to kind of time the swings. I'm a lot more active. So we'll look at the pros and cons of those strategies, and I'll break down some numbers there. I'm also working on building out a nice little presentation in Excel, so I can have some graphics and it'll be really clear for you guys as well. So that's kind of what I'm working on for the rest of the afternoon. But we won't get into that until tomorrow. So that's tomorrow, just to give you a little sneak preview. Today's strategy is the strategy that I like to cover at the very beginning of every single episode, and that is in relation to where we are in this Bitcoin channel. What is this strategy? What is my strategy or your strategy, whether it's an iteration of mine or a completely different strategy than mine. What is your strategy telling you to do right now based off of Bitcoin? Regardless of your strategy, if you're following my log channel strategy, if you're following your own timing strategy, I think it's extremely important that you understand the effect that Bitcoin has on you moving into alts. I think I've kind of pounded this in. I know some guys had an understanding of it coming into the group, but some people, only think in a very micro perspective about, and that's not a bad thing. Some people are a lot more micro focused on, is this coin going to do well? Do they have a good dev team? Stuff like that. I think those are all really, really good considerations. But what's more important to me is what's going on with Bitcoin. What is that going to mean for alts in the days, weeks, however long to come? And what is the general market cycle? How are things priced relatively? What are the relative valuations in this sector? According to where Bitcoin is, so pop out a duplicate as I always do and delete some of my lines. When we first got into the group, for those of you that have been with me since day one, thanks for taking the gamble on me and joining the group so quick. For everyone else that came a little bit later, you are lucky that Bitcoin gave us the opportunity to kind of start over from where everyone started at the very beginning of the group. So this is I've talked about this in my portfolio strategy channel. Please check it out. I have a pinned message that goes over the basis of it. But what it is when we're at the top of this channel, to put it very briefly, when we're at the top of the channel, I like to be taking profits on strong or expensive Bitcoin and using those Bitcoin, selling my strong or expensive Bitcoin to either build a fiat position, whether that's USDT, whether it's fiat, whatever it is, moving a little bit into USD or Euro. And then when we're down here, I'm buying a cheaper Bitcoin, or, I'm moving more. I want to be more Bitcoin heavy here, or, buying Bitcoin up here. I want to be selling Bitcoin and either moving it into alts or cash. Breaking it down a little bit further, when Bitcoin has hit the top of the channel right here in May, right here in June, this is August and September, these peaks in Bitcoin align right when they corrected, right here, and again, right here that we just had recently. This is when alts really start to move. So as Bitcoin rises, I'm sure a lot of you have felt this, I've also felt it, as Bitcoin rises extremely fast, it can punish your alts. It suppresses the price of the alts. That's just how an inverse price relationship is going to work. What it means though is when Bitcoin is at the top of the channel, you can use it to your advantage. Alt prices are usually suppressed, and even though it doesn't make too much sense, this is what I was talking about in my first announcement today, this strategy is always going to be at conflict with your emotions, with what you probably believe is going to happen, and I'm dealing with that right now. The strategy says when Bitcoin is up here, it just makes more sense. Statistically, you have a better chance of outperforming in the next days or weeks if you can sell some of this strong Bitcoin and move it into cheaper alts. I never know what's going to drive this. When we were at the top of the channel here and we started taking profits and moving into alts or moving into cash, I had no idea, maybe some of you guys did, I had no idea what was going to cause this drop, how far this drop was going to go. All I knew was that in the past, when Bitcoin is at the top of this channel, it has paid off significantly to move some of those profits into alts and position yourself for those gains that are going to come. I don't ever like to pick tops. One of the best pieces of advice or little lessons I got from a mentor at my previous job was to, don't try to call tops or bottoms. Statistically, you're going to be wrong about 99.8% of the time. You're never going to be able to do it. Don't focus or don't rely that much on trying to be perfect and time the market perfectly. What's a more effective and probably wiser, smarter strategy is to simply scale in, according to relative valuation. So if things are very expensive in Bitcoin, or it's a very strong Bitcoin, you can sell some of that very strong, expensive Bitcoin and buy more alts that are cheaper. As Bitcoin drops a little bit, then it gets more attractive to not only buy back your Bitcoin, but you can also sell alts after they just popped up. So it's a pendulum always swinging back and forth. As this pendulum swings to the top and you're Bitcoin heavy, get out of Bitcoin a tiny. I'm not saying sell your Bitcoin and dive into alts, because what can happen is it can keep rising. Or, if this resistance breaks and we go extremely parabolic, I'm going to have to revise the strategy. It's worked really good this year and we're not there yet, so I'm going to continue to follow the strategy until it fails me. However, guys, that's why I did say earlier this morning, I am going to follow it a little bit more conservatively right now, only because, and I'm going to think this for the next month, probably for the next few years, each month or each successive week, it seems like the outlook of Bitcoin is better and better. The two biggest pieces of fundamental information that came out about Bitcoin that are positive just in this last week are how much closer we are to CME futures. So I think the CME futures are testing or about to start trading either at the end of the month or at the beginning of December. The other thing is, and this is an operational risk that a lot of people don't consider when they think about institutions moving into Bitcoin. Coinbase opened up or made their custodian services either more available or they're marketing it heavier. I'm not sure if they were available before, but they're offering new services to institutions that want to be depositing tens of millions of dollars. If you're a portfolio manager, institutional money, or anything like that, you can't just store you can't make an account on my Ether wallet, or you can't have an account on Coinbase and keep all that in a hot wallet. You need custodian services. There's an extremely small amount of those custodian services. I've been to a few conferences where specialized kind of boutique banks provide that. But having a major player come out like Coinbase is really, really huge. It allows those institutional, it allows those institutional funds or big players that want to get in. It mitigates a little bit of that operational risk. The risk isn't completely gone, but it definitely helps that more of those services are becoming available. So, two very positive fundamental things coming out is the only reason that I'm, gonna be following the strategy still. I'm gonna be following it a little bit more conservatively, probably taking smaller positions in the alts that I'm taking these Bitcoin profits to. So I'm not gonna be moving, the 10% into these alt positions, probably closer to the 2% or 5% into some of these alts that I like. But yeah, that's all I really wanted to touch on there. We're at it's amazing what Bitcoin is doing. When we started the group, we were up here. The pattern that I pointed out on Twitter and in the group was that Bitcoin has hit the top of the channel, retraced, moved back to the top, and you guys can all see what happens the second time we hit the top of this channel. It's led to a massive correction. Right now, we hit the top of the channel, had the retracement. I kind of thought we were going to move back up. We did, and now you guys can see what that next step in the pattern would be if it follows it perfectly again. Hold on, I think someone's knocking on my door. Oh, never mind. You guys can see what would happen in this step 4 in this massive correction. I have no idea what would drive a correction that big. I'm not saying that this massive correction is going to occur. All I'm saying is I'm following the strategy based on what's happened in the past, historically what's been the best move, and I'm trying to eliminate myself from the equation and trying to eliminate my thoughts or my subjective, this is what I think. I'm just following the strategy, guys. I'm gonna be taking a little bit of profits here. If Bitcoin continues to move up this channel or is up in this range, great for me. I'm heavy into Bitcoin. I know a few of you guys are also shifting pretty heavy into Bitcoin, and you can sell some of that expensive Bitcoin into alts and fiat. So I wanted to touch on that really briefly. Tomorrow, like I said, we're going to go super in depth, as in depth as we can get in 30 minutes or an hour. But I'm going to break down what a passive strategy would look like and what an active strategy, more like my strategy, looks like, pros and cons of both. So moving into those alts, just wanted to check on Bcash one more time. Moving into and it looks like we had a nice little retest of this breakout area. So I'm not sure if that's going to stay or not. But it is a nice retest. So we will see, guys. We'll see what happens there. Just checking on Bitcoin one more time since this is live. I deleted my support line. So right when Bcash had that retest, it looks like Bitcoin was able to stay alive. If this retest survives and it's able to move up now and higher, I think Bitcoin will break this support, and we're headed at least for a lower support. Not a massive correction, just a little healthy dip, but something to watch. In terms of the actual alts that I was looking at, I gave a trade idea a few days ago on NEO, and you guys are all well aware that fell through on the recent kind of trade push, or on the recent Bitcoin push above the channel. The original trade idea was in this green zone. We broke support. This new support line that I added is interesting. It's where the last fall through landed, and it looks like price respected there again. I'm connecting the dots, and this is a really important line to watch now. I'm going to color it a different color than my normal green. I'm going to make this one light blue. Ideally, if we get a chance to enter down here, it'd be huge. I'm not sure we're going to. I took a small position today as NEO is back in this green kind of entry zone. It looks like the ICO wasn't too big of a catalyst. They did give a cryptic message today in their NEO News Twitter, and they don't give a lot of updates like that. I don't particularly like it when a project hypes things like that on their page, but what can you do? Maybe the hype pays off. Maybe it's something regulatory in China, regulatory favorable for NEO. We will see. We're not able to clear this. What level is that? About 490,000 sats. If it can clear the 490,000 sats, my first actual target for this position is 550 or 560,000 sats. That's what I'm looking for. And I'm comfortable. Someone had a question on where I'm going to place my stop here, where they should place their stop. I can't really tell you where you should. Make that decision based on how big this position is. Make this decision, based on how much you're comfortable losing. I'm going to place mine down here below this new support line. So, suppose this news comes out, it's not too good. I'm going to be watching to see if this support holds. Even if this news comes out, they overhype something, it's a really small change, it doesn't fundamentally impact the value of the coin. This support line might continue to play a nice little role. So I'm going to let this thing breathe. I think there's going to be some hype around that tweet. I wouldn't put it past them to hype it again tomorrow, or to hype the announcement if they're kind of trying this new hype tactic. So we're going to see where that goes, guys. And definitely as this circulates throughout crypto Twitter and throughout different telegrams, I'm not the shill catalyst. It's just not my style of trading. But I'm going to see where this one goes. So I know a couple other people are shilling it kind of heavily, which doesn't hurt. I don't mind it, but that's just not my style. So that's the target there. That's my mentality about this. Risk reward is just about even. If you actually have it up here at 560, that keeps the risk reward at least to a 1-to-1. That's the least that I would take. I've talked about why I have that mentality before. So just kind of go back or ask me a question in the group if you want me to cover that topic again. That's the NEO setup. I wish I recognized this support before, but what can you do? For those of you who didn't ever close this position or took this trade originally and closed it, yeah, we did miss, 20 or 30, was that a 30% gain? 15? 20% gain. So if you had a really strong hand and you held that, congrats, it paid off this time. Very well done. This is the target that I'm looking for. NAV is another one that I wanted to look at, guys. I showed this zoomed out one before. It's followed this kind of ridiculous pattern. I'm going to call it ridiculous just because you never see something repeat 4 times. Bitcoin showed us things 3 times. And TA, really outside of crypto, you don't see a lot of these patterns, but it's really fun to watch and to chart. So we see this descending triangle 3 times in a row, breakout each time. It's forming that once again. What we've seen over the last, in October I took this trade. I think I caught a really nice one, and I was looking for a breakout. But what I'm realizing is even in this pattern, even if you don't get the breakout, and you can catch, if you can enter down here at this entry zone, which I've selected, even if it isn't able to break out here, this is still a 27 or 30% gain. So regardless of whether this resistance holds, as long as this kind of support zone works out, and it did, this seems to be as low as Bitcoin is willing to suppress it right now. Ideally, the least risky entry here would be down around the 6,500 sat range. I don't think we're going to get down there though. So I like this. I like this entry zone. This is a trade that I'm going to take as well. This is my first target up here in this, what is that, 12.8K sats. And that's just the descending triangle resistance. If it is able to break out, you guys can see, you know, I don't want to hype this, but you guys can see how ridiculous the growth has been each time it's been able to break out. NAV is also a smaller cap, one of the smaller cap coins that I'll cover. I don't cover too many small caps just because, or if I am in a small cap, I just don't think it's really right to pass off some of those calls to my groups and to Twitter. Coins that are $5 to $10 million and have, you know, only $1 million or so of volume. It would be very easy for someone of influence to be able to manipulate those coins. I don't really think it's too ethical or right when people do it, and I think a lot of people get burned. So it doesn't really make sense for me to cover a lot of small caps. This is one of the smallest. You know, I'll definitely still cover some, but this is one of the smallest that I'll go. This is still in the top 100 of coin market cap. I think it's, what does that make it? Like, let me drag this over. So it's about 50 million market cap, 1 million a day of volume. So some of you guys that trade, you know, much bigger account sizes, you might not be able to build into the position like you would want. You know, you can kind of stagger your orders. Since I take such small positions, doesn't really bother me. I'll buy at 2 different levels, and that's been, you know, worked out fine for me in the past, unless it's something really small. So yeah, I like this setup. I like this coin. On the roadmap of this coin is what's actually appealing, and they've been able to churn out, you know, some really nice stuff. The anonymous DApps is, you know, it's interesting. Right now they've only completed planning, which is a little bit misleading in my opinion, that they're checking things off the box for completing the planning. That being said, marketing is, whether or not you think it's right, marketing is huge in how well these coins do. You saw it with Zcoin, you know, they did have the nodes coming out, but a coin that can market it or revamp its website or improve the logo or just even spread the word on their Twitter about what they're doing, you know, more often has definitely led to positive results for a lot of coins. So it's good that they're even considering building out a new marketing roadmap. And then this is the update that I'm most excited about. It reminds me of atomic swaps, but they're using their privacy payments, and they're going to allow you to do an instant exchange of 80 plus cryptos in a private kind of way. So I think that's going to be a really cool development. We're going to see, I don't know what 60% means. If they've been working on it for a year and they're 60% done, that means it could take months to complete. If this has only been a month-long project and they're 60% done, it might be done soon. So this is a little bit ambiguous in the roadmap. That being said, they've definitely completed a lot of things in the past, and I like the technical setup. So I'm comfortable taking a position in that coin. Something to note, guys, checking on Bcash again. Something to note, guys, with all these setups, just like we saw when Bitcoin was up here, it is tough, you know, if you're early in finance or if you're early in trading, sometimes it's just as bad as being considered, you know, wrong, because if you take a position too early in something, even if you're right, the markets can behave irrationally, or something can continue to move against you, and you can definitely, you know, see those losses in the short term, and that's pretty tough. It bothers me too with some trades, and sometimes I have the patience, sometimes I don't. I put different rules in place to try to let my trades play out, but you know, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. In this strategy, you know, we were building into some of these alts that were still going lower, but what paid off is you know, even if we don't acquire a NEO or something at the very bottom, if we're acquiring it when Bitcoin is at the top of this channel, you know, you're acquiring it you're hoping it's a relative low. You're hoping you're getting it at a pretty low point, and it might not be the exact bottom. That's okay, because when you see, you know, if Bitcoin does retrace and moves off this channel and gives us the dip that I kind of want, what that does is you're positioned ahead of those massive moves. So you're not like jumping into an altcoin that just pumped 30% that day. You're moving into an altcoin that's down 5 or 10% that day, and then hopefully positioning yourself for a nice gain in the days or weeks to come. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm following the strategy in a definitely more conservative approach, taking smaller positions in those alts, just because the environment is so positive for Bitcoin. The only FUD driver seems to still be Bcash. It looks like this breakout didn't stay. I'm going to keep watching this and tracking this one closely, guys, because I don't know if it's able to move above this. I think that spells a pretty big dip for Bitcoin, but we'll be watching that closely. Thanks for tuning in today, guys. That's all I have for you. I'm going to let you guys throw some questions in the live chat if you have them, and then we'll wrap this up. I'll get back to the Discord, and I will see you guys tomorrow with with the strategy session, which I'm really excited about. I'm going to try to make something really nice in Excel for you. Anyone have any questions in the live chat? Let those build up for a second. Asleep? OMG. He has a question. Is OMG at 78.6% retracement? Without even looking, I imagine it is. I think Litecoin and a few of those coins were all really close. Not sure what that line is. Just on the fib that I have drawn, it doesn't look like it's all the way there. It looks like it's already moving up pretty nicely off of it. When Bitcoin, I don't want to line the charts up right now side by side, but kind of think about that one right there and envision where this is right when it's along the fib support. Let's see here. That was right when Bitcoin was right at the top. So you guys can see how, positioning yourself or moving into alts, suppose you moved into OMG. I'm not sure what that is. Suppose you moved into OMG when Bitcoin was right up here at the top of this channel. On OMG, what that looked like. That looked like moving in right here as OMG's long support. If you position yourself, you caught a really nice little gain right here. So as Bitcoin's moved back up to the top of the channel, OMG is getting really close to this 78% fib. I don't think it's perfectly there yet. It looks like it's dropping a little bit as Bitcoin rises, or if Bitcoin drops, it's gonna have some room to run. But yeah, I think this is definitely still really close to the channel. I mean, I like to be really technical. I like to get my supports and everything perfect. It's not always going to be perfect, and I think a range, something like this. What is that from? It's 85,000. Around 85,000 sats up to about 90,000 sats. That's the little support range, because all these lines, it's never just going to be a perfect dollar price on a line. This range is kind of the area that I would be looking to buy into OMG if I was considering OMG as one of the alts I wanted to scale into. Hope that answers your question, Asleep. Robert Como, at some point, would you consider changing the angle of the log channel like you did about a year ago? Yeah, Robert, I definitely will. And that's what I was talking about. If Bitcoin makes me, or kind of forces me to change, let's find the actual Bitcoin chart here. If Bitcoin, turns out to be as bullish as I think it can be, yeah, if we break out here, that's kind of the point about, I have this strategy and it's worked in the past, and that's the whole thing with these historical strategies, is you're trying to take out what they're aim to do is to take yourself completely out of the equation, take your emotions, take your biases. You're just looking at what's worked in the past. That's the strength and the weakness. It's only looking at the past. If Bitcoin is able to close a few days above this, and at the very beginning of the group, those of you guys who were here November 1st, November 2nd, I was kind of getting worried. I was saying, this is, I'm not sure if my strategy is going to work anymore. I might have to change the trajectory. And what happened is Bitcoin came right back and the strategy worked again. So until, I get a convincing close above this next fib extension level, this is 8,060. If I get a very convincing close up here, then yeah, then that's why I'm taking a more conservative approach here too with the strategy. I want to move some into alts, but I'm very aware that this could change at a heartbeat. This CME group, imagine if Bloomberg, CNBC, everyone covers it, Wall Street Journal, and this new year, I mean, the adoption and everything is going to keep growing around Bitcoin. I'm sure that the growth next year is going to be so strong, it's going to put us into a new channel, or not. You know, it might put us into anything. I'm going to have to change this eventually. These channels tend to last about a year. It's not for any numerical reason. It's just how it's worked in the past. So yeah, if this trajectory gets different, I'm sure it will next year, we're going to have to build a new strategy. For right now, I'm going to follow the strategy. I'm just going to be a little bit more conservative with it. So yes, Robert, definitely a possibility. Jacob has a question. Do you plan on using BitMEX at all to time these BCH Bitcoin movements? Yeah, Jacob, I have a Bcash long and Bitcoin short open right now. I share most of those trades in there, guys, but it's hard to do all of my moves in there, whether it's Bittrex or sharing it to the group and doing the trading on BitMEX. So like, you know, I do my best and I share a lot of my trades, but I can't share them all, and I can't share every single move just because it takes twice as long. I think you guys understand that. But I'm extremely transparent, you know, for that purpose. I want to show you guys what I'm doing. I want to show you my moves. It's in my opinion, it's the most honest way to do it. Robert Como said it's broken through. That's just attached to your last question. Cool. I think that covers all the questions, guys. I definitely want to keep this short, like I do, 30 minutes or so. We're at about 36 minutes. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. The Bitcoin Bcash saga is definitely not over. We're going to see what happens if Bcash can hang above this level, if Bitcoin stays in this channel. Definitely something to watch. I wanted to focus the first 15 minutes on my strategy again. I think having a sound strategy and having a sound understanding of what's going on in the macro sense pays off way, way bigger than me diving into a coin's GitHub. I think focusing on micro things in coins is important, but I think having an understanding and being able to time, you know, the move to altcoins and the move to Bitcoin pays dividends for the whole thing. And if you have an understanding of this, you can, you know, do better when you actually pick your alts. That's all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to be in the Discord for the rest of the day. I'm going to be pretty active in there. I have one other thing I have to wrap up at the bank. But with that, have a good rest of the Friday. Have a good evening for the European crowd. And I will see you guys tomorrow.